Hello and welcome to my preview of the Nagios discovery tool for Windows. As some of you will be aware, I've been recently doing a multi-part series on how you can use Nagios for monitoring your Exchange installations. Briefly, for those of you who have not encountered Nagios before, Nagios is a open source implementation of a monitoring product that can monitor a whole number of facets of your network. The core version, which is the open source and freely available version, is widely regarded as one of the industry leading products, and it's used in a number of places, a number of big enterprises, and it has the normal capabilities that you'd associate with the monitoring tool for monitoring notifications, custom services, hosts, syslogging, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Obviously, one of its key attributes is it's free. However, there are a number of downsides to Nagios. The most pertinent of which that I've identified are, one, that there's no inbuilt discovery mechanism for hosts on your network, hence the Nagios discovery tool, and the second bit really being that although it does a very good job of monitoring, setting up each individual host and device and its monitoring facets can be quite a involved process. So to give you a sort of overview of what Nagios looks like with a sample host, I have one here within my environment, which is currently set up to monitor one of my domain controllers. And drilling down into it, you can see that there are a number of services and physical facets monitored, like for example the C drive, and on the service side of things we've got particular services that are key to the overall health of Active Directory on that host monitored to ensure they're running. And I also have a custom script here, check DC replication status, which has a look at how well replication is performing in amongst all the domain controllers within my environment. However, to give you an idea of what I was saying about complexity, the configuration for that one host is predominantly held in two files on the Nagios server, on your Nagios server, Windows CFG and commands.cfg. Windows CFG is the host definition, IP address, name, etc., as well as the services that you wish to monitor, and the commands.cfg file contains the actual command syntax that's passed to the host either via checkNT, which is an inbuilt Nagios check algorithm, or checknRPE, which is a third-party add-on. So you predominantly end up working in these two files, which I'm bringing down to my local machine so we can have a look inside them. So within configs, and we open up windows.cfg, we can see that we have a host group definition, which is Windows servers, which is based upon the default Nagios template, and we also have a host definition for the My Domain controller, and going down, define service, the services that we want to check on that machine. Having a look inside the commands.cfg file, we will see that there are a number of definitions of the commands that are used within the Windows file. So you can see that we've got, if I try and find one of the ones that are relevant to the domain controller, here we are. It's the same command line, check at RPE DC reps. Okay, so if you can imagine that every time that you're actually working with Nagios and you add a new host and you want to configure some services, you're going to have to edit, at the very least, the windows.cfg file, and if you're actually adding in more expansive custom commands to check the host, you're going to have to edit the commands.cfg file. So, how have I made this simpler? Well, firing up the Nagios discovery tool for Windows, what I've in essence done is to create a GUI application that's capable of scanning your network for discovery to find hosts, and allows you to add those hosts to the Nagios configuration file, and also add in check commands into the commands.cfg file. The software does this by a simple, looks up host via a simple resolution algorithm that I've built in. But the actual commands that are put in, e.g. into the service command files, are based upon a set of XML files which reside in the same directory as the Nagios configuration tool. Which the idea behind these is these can be customized and downloaded, so you can add in more functionality into the tool without having for me to have to release new versions. Basically, you've got your own sort of XML based overarching API which adds functionality to the tool that isn't always there. So let's have a look at configuring a host, just to give you an idea of how much simpler it is. Is in the Nagios configuration file. You do have an option of starting with a fresh Windows CFG file in the bottom here, but as we've just downloaded our existing one from our Nagios server, I'll go to Open, Windows.cfg. And what I want to do now is I want to do a scan for some hosts on my network, because I want to add in to the file some monitoring for my Exchange, one of my Exchange 2010 servers. So do a scan. As you can see in the background, the host located list populates, and if you select I select my Exchange server, it populates the host name, the host IP. We select server type from this drop down box, and then we click add hosts, and you have a look down the bottom here. We now have my Exchange server entered into the configuration file. What we now want to do is add some services. As I mentioned, the commands definition for services and an activity are stored in the service configuration XML files. So I would like to monitor Exchange basic services. I would like to monitor the Exchange database database basics, and that's basically, oh yes, and I'd like to monitor Windows Basic, because it is in essence a Windows server. So we have a look at our command file definition. You see that these services have now been added in. So what we can now do is save that configuration file. And what we can now do is upload it back to our Nagios server, overwrite the existing configuration file, and restart the Nagios services. And then what will now happen is if we go back into our Nagios interface, you'll see our host has now been entered into the monitoring list. Clicking on the status detail, you'll see that the services are getting ready to be monitored. So that is a lot easier than monitoring, than manually editing the configuration files for Nagios. As I mentioned, all of these service configuration files are fully configurable. You can also add more to the list through some of the extended options within the tools. So for example, if you wanted to add a new XML file, as you can see, we've got 2, 3, 4, 5 files there which contain various service monitoring commands, and as you can see, those correspond to these entries within the service XML configuration. You can literally either manually type in a new file name that you've created, or you can browse for it should you wish to. And once that's entered into there and you've saved this file, you can click refresh here and this list will update. The tool also contains functionality for adding new services into the service XML file. So basically, say you've created an IIS monitoring XML file and you want to add in some various checks to that file, you can do it from directly within the Nagios tool, Nagios discovery tool. So for example, if I open up let's just say, for example, REPL monitors, you'll see that there are a number of entries in here. This actually basically will go back into your commands file, which I'll cover in another part. So you can add in new service check names into here. So what I'm basically trying to do is make life a lot easier for administrators of Nagios to discover their network, monitor hosts, and configure the services and the service check commands that go along with Nagios to provide an effective monitoring environment. As I said, this is a pretty much a preview overview of the Nagios Discovery tool. It's only in version 1, so there's undoubtedly a few bugs within it that might need to be worked out. But over the coming weeks, I'll be producing, obviously making the tool available for download, and also producing some manuals and how-tos and some video overviews of how you can best make use of the piece of software within your respective environments. I hope this has kind of whet your appetite for it, and hope to speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.